Hello, everybody. Welcome to Module 8. This is your final module, and I am putting out this video a couple days early because if you are in Central Florida, you know that we are expecting a hurricane, Hurricane Milton. And so I may lose power, electricity, and so forth. So I just wanted to get all of this out. We just want to make sure we pray for everybody, especially those on the West Coast, and pray that you will just be with them as we're thinking about this hurricane because it's supposed to be a pretty big one. So I'm going to go over your assignments for assignment 8, but I want you to know that I realize many of you will be impacted by the hurricane. So if you can't do due dates, I understand that. If you are not impacted by the hurricane, if you live in Ohio or some other place, please get your assignments in. But if you need more time because you just don't have electricity or power, all you got to do is just, we'll work that out. Okay. So you have enough to stress about without stressing about that. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to talk about some of the things that are due for your very last module. I will look at your case studies. If I have power, I'll be grading those on Wednesday. Because we don't have classes at Southeastern. So I'll have some time to grade those on Wednesday. So I'll look over your last case studies. And this week, it's going to change a little bit. So this week you have 2 different assignments. But the first thing is you're going to read Chapter 12 on approaches to teaching reading. It talks about kind of a summary of all these different approaches to teaching reading. And then there's a short video about the language experience approach to teaching. You have 2 assignments. Your discussion for this week is use your learning from this week's reading and viewing to answer the following questions. Consider the following: basal anthology approach, literature approach, individual reading workshop approach, or language experience approach. Give a specific example when you incorporated one of these approaches, and talk about advantages and disadvantages. If you haven't, which one would you like to try? So that's your discussion post. Your big assignment for this week is you should have read the book Whisper. It's not a difficult read. And you have a template, which you are to choose a minimum of 2 quotes per chapter that were meaningful to you. And on the right side, you're going to respond to that quote. So here is the template for that. It's pretty easy. It just has sorry, I'm trying to download it. Now, one thing I did tell you is that you do not have to, I'm going to try to share this again. One thing that I let you guys know is that, so you do not have to, you can use this template like it is. You don't have to have an APA title page. I do want a reference. So just at the end, put references. And you do also need in-text citations. So you need in-text citations whenever you do your reflections over here. If you link what you are saying to other things that you've read, which you should, and then you need a reference. I don't care about, you don't have to do headings or a reference page. Okay. But I do want those references and the in-text citations. Okay. So what I want to do now is we're going to talk about the book Whisper, and really this whole thing, this whole chapter, the book Whisper itself really talks a lot about independent reading and how we get kids to want to read. So I just have a couple things I want to share. So one thing is, one of the approaches you are reading about in this chapter is literature approach to teaching. And this is where a teacher gets a book, and maybe kids are in specific literature circles to read. You could do a whole group literature lesson in that. For example, when I was a 4th grade teacher, my entire class read How to Eat Fried Worms. We also read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So I picked about 4 or 5 books that the entire class read, and then my, uh, I taught my standards through those lessons. Another thing you can do is literature circle. So in a literature circle, you would put kids in small groups according to their reading levels. I would let kids have a choice on what they wanted to read. Um, it's very popular with students because it's highly collaborative. It provides them a top opportunity to talk in small groups. So that's really good. You can have roll sheets, or some people say don't have roll sheets. So for example, they're in a small group, you might have one person that is the vocabulary person. You might have another person that as they read, they have to uh, take care of specific events. You can do that, or you cannot have roll sheets and have the kids annotate and so forth. So if you don't have roll sheets, you might have them use response logs, sticky notes, coding. But what's important with literature circles is that that we teach a reading strategy. We still have to teach. We need to teach them things like questioning, connecting, visualizing. Those are all comprehension strategies. We need to give them explicit instructions socially, what to do. And we can expand to nonfiction, so we don't want to forget that. Okay, now what I want to talk to you about is what research shows about motivation, because this book, the book that you read, The Book Whisperer, is all about trying to find a good fit book for kids, trying to find that book that kids want to read. And so in order for you to do that, you have to know books. You have to know them. So this is what research shows. Now I already talked to you about a couple weeks ago that accelerated reader. There's no research that shows that it works. And we know a lot of times accelerated reader will give parties, or when I was a kid, we did pizza. We'd book it and we had pizza. Here's what research shows motivates kids, and it's the 6 C's. Number 1 is choice. Kids want to have choice in what they're reading. Usually if you give them something that they like, they're going to enjoy it. Challenge. Believe it or not, it needs to be challenging. When something is constantly easy and you know automatically you're going to get, oh, I'm going to get an A on that. That professor's easy or that teacher's easy. It usually does not motivate kids. Challenge is good. So you need to have that level, that where it's not too hard, where they're going to quit, but it needs to be hard enough where they're challenged and motivated to do their best. Students want control over their learning. So you need to give them some control. It needs to be collaborative, give students opportunity to talk and interact. They need to be able to construct their own meaning, and there needs to be some consequences if it's not done. So incentive programs, they're widely used, but do they work? Well, the research shows that they don't work. So what should we do? Well, what research does show is that the reward needs to be proximal to what you want the students to do. So if you want students to read, you would need to give them access to more books, choice in what they're doing. So for example, when I was a teacher and a principal, I had a golden bookshelf, and I literally just painted a bookshelf gold. I put books on there, and those were books for rewards that students could read. I also had tea time with the principal. So I would have students that could come and have tea with me, and we would read and talk about books that they read. Whenever we got a new book, the first person that read that book, and if they would write a summary of the book and explain it, we had little stickers made, and in those stickers it said the first person to read this book was, and that person's name. These are things that we're not giving kids candy or pizza or parties. We're giving them rewards that are proximal to what we want them to do. If we want them to read, we need to give them rewards related to reading. So rewards need to be proximal to the desired behavior, such as books. They do not undermine intrinsic motivation. Less proximal rewards, like tokens, seem to undermine intrinsic research. So I want to show you a really short video. Well, I don't know, a couple minutes. This is a summer program that I did about 10 years ago now, where I conducted a summer reading program during the summer. We had over 100 kids. We did this for about 4 years. The kids could earn book bucks. And at the end, we went to Barnes & Noble and they got to cash in their book bucks. And what we did is we gave a core phonics assessment, some other assessments at the beginning of summer school. We gave that same assessment at the end of summer school, and that was taught by trained teachers, most of them getting graduate degrees in reading like all of you are. They then got their books. Over the summer, they read them, and when they came back in the fall, we assessed them again. And what my research showed was, and if you're interested in an article, I can send you an article I wrote about it. It's about the reading program. It showed that the kids grew just as much in their reading proficiency by giving them books as they did when they were in that summer reading program. So that's powerful to know that if you give kids, if you put books in their hands that they want to read, they're going to read. So here is a short video. Okay, I realized you could not see that, so I'm going to start over and see if I can get this again. Here we go.
And for close to 90 elementary school students, today was payday.
Welcome to Barnes & Noble. You guys have
Books were the currency of the day, and the going rate? Several weeks of hard work at the U of L Summer Boost Learning Program. Kids buy books using these Summer Boost bucks, which they've each gotten throughout the course of the program. Over the last 3 weeks, they've been doing different activities, reading books and other things, so that they can spend these dollars today at Barnes & Noble. Tegan Mahoney, a third grade student, had 59 Boost bucks to spend.
I work hard and do my work all the time and must follow directions the first time.
With her Boost bucks in hand, Tegan came with a game plan.
Gonna look for among the hidden books.
And with a little help from the Summer Boost teachers, it didn't take long.
I found them among the hidden books.
But she didn't stop there.
Tegan is doing a great job. She came in, she had some specific titles she wanted to look for, and she even came in knowing some other folks she wanted to pick out some books for.
I picked Marilyn Monroe for my mom.
At the end of the hour, Tegan had her hands and the rest of her summer full.
You found 13! Awesome!
If I read 20 minutes each day, I think it'll take me for each book, it'll probably take me about a week.
For Tegan, reading is the preferred form of play anyway.
When me and my friend play school, we always want to read to each other, and then when
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there, but that was probably one of the best professional days of my life, as kids were able to pick out those books that they really liked. And you could see the joy on Tegan's face when she was able to pick out those books. And so that's what this is about, the Book Whisperers, finding the books that kids really like to get them interested in it. Okay, so I want you guys to think about, how can you make rewards for reading proximal? Can you reward reading by offering more time to read, a basket of new books, opportunity to lead a discussion? That's important. So I'm going to skip some of this because I'm running out of time, but okay. Actually, I think I'll go back. So a couple things I want you to think about is read alouds. They need to be interactive. They need to read books that kids are interested in for your read alouds. Independent reading. When you have conferences, you need to be conferencing with kids about their books, but they should be discussions, not interrogations. Many times you're like, who was the author? What was the setting? No, they need to be these conversations about the book. Revisit the materials. Are there books that everyone wants to read? Can your students access those books? Are there books Are there books students like? Do you have magazines? Do you, you can buddy read. I'm actually doing a video call today where we're buddy reading with first graders and kindergartners and fifth graders with a Native American tribe. So we're going to do some buddy reading today. And then use an inventory to match interest. So there are tons of book inventories that you can do. Okay. And then lastly, teach kids to find good books. Teach them to, they don't know automatically how to find them. You need to teach them things like you need to model how to preview a book, how the 5-finger rule is an easy one. If they read one page and there's 5 words that they can't read, probably too hard for them. So you need to provide practice, display your books, have a nice library that students want to see, and then hold those accountable talks. That's really important that we're accountable to what they read. Okay. The last thing I want to talk about is an article that I wrote. It's been probably about 8 years ago now, and it's about using readers' notebooks. So we talked about that accelerated reader wasn't the best thing to use. So what can we do? Well, one thing that you can do is a notebook. And in the Book Whisperer, they talk about a log, don't they? So in this notebook, the students keep track of books they read, and then once a week, they write a letter to their teacher about what they're reading. So we want them to become better readers. So we have a notebook that has expectations for reading. They keep track of their book interest, a reading log. And as in the Book Whisperer, we challenge them. We want you to read a certain amount of books with different genres. And this is something they might write for expectations. We're going to, so-and-so is going to read how many books, and then they're going to keep track under genres. Once a week, students turn in this reader's notebook, and this is a letter in which they are writing a thoughtful letter about the book they're reading. We're having this conversation. So we're going to do personal comments, open-ended ones, conversational, and we want to indicate an ease of expression. So in our responses, we're going to structure a message, or the students are going to write a letter about the book. As a teacher, you could pose a question, share your own thoughts. This is not a grammar lesson, which we're correcting their letters. That's not what this is about. So don't be correcting their grammar or spelling. This is about a conversation with a book. Here is an example of a letter that a student wrote, and he's talking about his favorite part in the book, that he's interested in reading a Halloween one, and he even has my prediction of what's going to happen. Here is the teacher's response. She says that I respect how you stick with a book. And then she says, please let me know if your prediction comes true. I want to read the other one. So she's engaging the student in what they wrote. So what I did was, in my research, is I literally coded hundreds and hundreds of these letters. And what I saw was, I'm going to skip a little bit because I'm doing way too much time here, that 183 times kids summarized, 78 times they asked questions. Only 12 instances did they synthesize. And we know synthesizing is a much harder DOK level than summary. So that shows the comprehension skills that the students demonstrated in their letters. Then I looked at the teacher responses, and I showed that the teachers 63 times asked questions related to summarizing. 25 times they asked questions about synthesizing. So I came to the conclusion that what the research showed is students tend to do what you tell them to do when it comes to reading. If you in your feedback expect a synthesis, expect higher order thinking, and you give them feedback for that, they did it. If a teacher just said, I just want you to summarize, that's what they did. So the research showed that they do work. The letters worked. I have put in this PowerPoint, which I will share with you guys, a a template for the notebook. So if you want to use that in your classes, you're more than happy to do that. Okay, that was a lot. I have a lot, no, I was a lot, but this is a topic I am really passionate about. Again, if you have any issues with power or anything, just let me know. But have a great day. And it looks like a lot of us may not have any electricity for a while. So it looks like we may be reading a lot of good books. So grab a book you like. Okay, talk to you later. Bye-bye.